right, so welcome to this Yin yoga class, which is all about kind of releasing some of that stuck energy that we typically end up with in the pelvic floor and in the hips. So we're going to start out in a really nice diamond pose here. So it's kind of like Baddha Konasana, where the heels are in, but we're going to extend them out just a tad bit so that you're making more of a diamond shape here. If you need your props, you can take blocks and put them underneath of the knees, but we're going to be here for about like 5 to 8 minutes or so. So if you do need that extra support underneath of the knees, then you can go ahead and grab some blocks and put them underneath. Otherwise, you'll take either a block or a bolster and put that right in front of your heels so that as you fold forward here, you can release the forehead down. If that is too far for you, then you can always rest the forearms over top of the block and release the forehead down. So for the purposes of this pose, just allowing the awareness to drop down to the pelvic floor. Just feeling those points of contact between the sits bones and the earth beneath you. Notice the contact of the pelvic floor on the mat. And then shift the awareness to the hip creases. And just softening through the hip creases here. Sometimes there's this tendency to hold on to tension in the hip flexors. So with each breath, just softening through the hip flexors. Being aware if there's any tension in the tops of the thighs, the quads, or the backs of the thighs, your hamstrings, your inner or your outer thighs. Allow the abdomen to soften on the inhales. And relax into the exhales. It's okay to round through the spine here. Deep, even breaths in and out. Just allowing yourself to settle into the posture for the next few moments here. And taking 5 more conscious breaths. And just being aware of the space being created in the pelvis. Notice how the joints of the pelvis feel. One more deep breath in and out. And then using your hands for support, pressing your palms into the mat and gently rolling yourself up and out of the posture. Taking the hands to the outsides of the thighs, bring the soles of the feet to the floor, scoot your buttocks into your heels, and support yourself into a reclining posture here. Palms can be facing up or down, and just allowing yourself to integrate those sensations for 5 breaths. Good. Taking a deep breath in. Good. And then slowly rolling yourself up to come into deer pose. We'll start with the left leg first. So for deer pose, you're attempting to make 90-degree angles with both of the legs. So the back leg comes out at an angle, and then the knee is bent at 90 degrees. You can flex the foot or relax it. It really just depends on what's more comfortable. And then in the front, the thigh comes forward, and then again, the knee is bent at 90 degrees. So for this posture, you have a few options. For some of you, you may find that both of your sits bones are connected to the mat, and this really just has to do with your femur, with your hips and your femur, your pelvis and your femurs, and how your femurs rotate in your pelvis. So you get to decide how far you want to make these 90-degree angles, or how absolute you want for them to be. Then you'll turn your hips, so you'll turn the torso, that the torso is facing forward. And again, you can use a block to come into a forward fold here. So while you're here, just relaxing the feet and the ankles, you can always drop the head down. You may notice that you don't need a block here, but that is totally up to you. You can always start with the block or the bolster or pillow and then take it away. But just finding your personal edge. Where is there sensation in this posture? And then you find the edge of that sensation at a place where you can hold this posture for about 5 to 7 minutes. Making sure that the breath is not constricted, that you're able to take those deep inhales and exhales. Being aware of what you feel in your glutes, your buttocks, your pelvic floor, your inner and outer thighs. Are there places that you find where you're clenching? And if you are you able to breathe, to relax and release those muscles, to allow the joints to settle? Deep breaths in and out. And as the breath settles, the body settles. And as the body settles, the mind settles. So allowing your focus and awareness to be on the breath. Always coming back to the breath, to the core and root of prana, moving through the body. And then just allowing the breath to guide you deeper into the posture.
5 more breaths. Good. One more deep breath in and out. And then again, pressing the palms into the mat. And lifting yourself up. Extending the legs out in front of you, nice and slow. Just taking 5 breaths here, being aware of what you feel between the right half of the body and the left. Notice if there's a difference in sensation between the 2 legs. And just explore the way that you might feel energy flowing through the legs, through the hips, and through the pelvis. You might notice a little bit more spaciousness in one leg over the other. Good. One more breath. And then exchanging legs here. So now we're switching over to bring the right leg out in front. I'm going to spin around on my mat here. So the right leg is now out in front. And you may notice, like I always do, a difference between the right half and the left. So again, that left knee is in line with the hip as much as possible. The knee is bent at 90 degrees. And then the right thigh bone is coming right out in front of you. So right knee in line with the right hip socket. And then the knee is bent at about 90 degrees. And again, you may notice some differences. Your butt cheek may be lifted on one side. Maybe you're completely flat. You can always even that out with a blanket if you like to. And then again, taking your prop out in front of you if you like. Turn the torso so it's facing forward. And then you can come into that forward fold. Ooh. Again, just finding your edge wherever that is for you, using props as you need to. And while you're here, again, just focusing on the sensations of the pelvis and of the femur and the muscles and the ligaments and the joints that support the pelvis and the femur. So being aware of your glutes, your thigh muscles, your pelvic floor. Soften through the hip creases. Be aware of the breath. And again, just noticing if there's any stuck points in the body. If you notice them, breathe into those spaces and places. And you can just make a mental note telling that part of the body to relax or release. And just exploring that edge of sensation and allowing yourself to find stillness.
5 more breaths. And one more breath in and out. And using the palms for support.
Pressing yourself up. And again, slowly extending the legs out in front of you. And again, just integrating. Being fully aware of what it is that you sense and feel in the body. Again, come back to lie on your back 4. And just hugging the knees in. 5 breaths. And then making your way into happy baby pose. So drawing the knees back into the armpits, taking the soles of the feet up towards the ceiling. And it's the same concept. You want to make sure that you're not pulling the pelvis up off of the floor, but that you're keeping the pelvis connected to the mat. So what that means is that you may need to grab lower down on the legs so you can hold on to the backs of the thighs, the backs of the calves, the ankles, the outer edges of the feet, or the big toes here. And then just spreading the knees a little bit wider so that they come back towards the armpits, but definitely keeping the pelvis on the mat here. So just finding a suitable place for you. And if you like, you can rock from side to side for a few breaths, but then settling into stillness here. Again, just letting the pelvic floor stretch, bulge, and relax. So as you inhale, you may notice that the pelvic floor and the abdomen bulge up towards the ceiling. And when you exhale, you may notice that the pelvic floor and the abdomen kind of sink away and back down towards the earth. One more breath. And again, taking the hands to the outsides of the thighs or calves, drawing the knees into the chest. Circle the knees around 3 times in each direction. And then releasing the feet down to the mat one at a time. Extending the legs out into Shavasana. Left foot near the right corner of the mat. Right foot near the right corner of the mat. And you can take the hands over the low belly. Maybe one hand over the heart or one hand over the abdomen. Tuck the shoulders under for a little bit more comfort here. And just allow yourself to be here, just drawing upon all of those sensations. And what's happening with the pelvic floor, with the breath. What you notice about your thighs, the way that your pelvis is resting on the mat. what you're feeling in the hip flexors and the abdomen. And being aware if there's a freedom in the breath. There is this direct correlation to what's happening in the pelvis and what's happening with the breath. And so if there is still tension in the pelvic region, utilizing the breath to breathe that tension away from you. The more space you create in the breath, the more space you can create in the body. And the more space you create in the body, the more space you can create in the breath and in the mind. Just being aware that it's all connected. More consciously aware that you are of the breath. And whenever you've completed your 30 breaths, just wiggling the fingers and the toes, and taking your time if you still have a few more breaths to go. And then extending the arms and the legs. Gently turning your head from side to side, and then one leg at a time, bending the knees, bringing the soles of the feet to the floor, and rolling yourself onto your side for a few breaths. Whenever it feels right for you, pressing yourself up to a comfortable seated position, bringing the palms together in front of the heart, just giving gratitude, blessings, and thanks for this practice, for this day, and for this life. This practice of yoga is complete. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again soon.